Have you guys ever heard of this game called Undertale? Well, if you haven't, you must be living under a rock because it has grown quite the community since its original release in 2015. So, if you didn't already see the date of when this video comes out, quite recently, Undertale had its 5th anniversary, and now I'm not 100% into the community as I used to be, but from what I know, there was some kind of concert thing for Undertale with the amazing soundtrack. There is also some new interactions we get with the cast, and apparently this entire video is a 3-hour premiere, which started, like I mentioned, with some new interactions with all the cast, and soon after there was a real orchestra playing the full Undertale soundtrack. Many of the memorable and lovable tracks were in this video, consisting of some amazing tunes from the soundtrack. Getting a little bit back on track, I wanted to make what I have made as a common series on my channel known as How I Think a Video Game Holds Up in 2020. Today we are obviously covering, in my opinion, one of the best RPGs, Undertale. In videos like these, I try to make them easy to follow along with as we take a look at the game piece by piece. The parts I normally split up the video into are story, controls, gameplay, and soundtrack. Anyways, without any more rambling, let the video begin. Undertale is no ordinary game, as it's quite different to most RPGs. This game shows a bit of freedom in what you choose to do on your journey from the ruins all the way to the castle where Asgore is. In this game, there are 3 different game routes you can take, with each having its own final boss. Those 3 routes are Pacifist, Neutral, and Genocide. In the Pacifist route, you will always choose to have mercy and you will try to make friends with people in the underground. You will always make sure that you never hurt anyone and that you normally always spare. You try to have a positive impact on the underground. This will essentially give you the best ending for the game in my opinion. The final boss for this route is Azrael Dreamer, who is the most powerful being in the universe. This is personally one of the best boss fights of any game, and to avoid spoiling the fight, please just go try it out for yourself. The neutral route is a bit different compared to the pacifist. When trying Undertale with a neutral route, you will end up killing only a few monsters, and you make your way to Asgore around any levels from 1 to 10 at most. Most newcomers to Undertale typically take the neutral route as they are not familiar with the sparing and mercy options. Undertale has called itself, in its first trailer, the friendly RPG where no one has to die, and this is a very true statement shown by the pacifist route. The final boss for the neutral route is Omega Flowey, which is a unique kind of boss who can only be fought again after a true reset. Some people like to call it the Photoshop Flowey, since that's clearly what he was made in, and in my own opinion, it's probably one of the most fun boss fights. I mean, out of the 3 boss fights there are, he's probably my favorite. For the final, and what most call the most difficult route of the game, Genocide, is quite literally what it sounds like. You will spend multiple minutes staying in the same room, murdering other monsters until there are none left. You will kill everything in sight, which includes the big characters like Toriel, for example. The most common reason not everyone finishes this route is because of how difficult it is. Personally, it took me longer than I care to remember to get through the 2 big bosses of the Genocide route, Undyne the Undying and Sans the Skeleton. Undyne is a pain in the butt to kill. You, the player, finishes the massacre you have made in Waterfall, and just before you kill Monster Kid, an NPC you meet, Undyne goes down in 1 hit. Kinda, because then she refuses to die and becomes Undyne the Undying. She claims to be the heroine, but yeah, if you can memorize her patterns and have a few attempts, you will most likely get through her. Continuing your massacre through Hotland in the core, you will eventually meet Mettaton Neo, which is a 1-hit kill and a fake boss, similar to how Toriel and Papyrus were. Once you get past Mettaton, you get all the way to the final corridor and meet with the last person you, the player, would expect, Sans, the fat, lazy, and pun-making skeleton. Turns out, the player will find out the hard way that Sans is no joke, and they will learn that with just the first attack from his boss fight. Take a look at how famous YouTuber Jacksepticeye reacts to Sans' first attack.
It's a beautiful day outside. Birds are singing, flowers are blooming, and days like these, kids like you should be burning in hell. Ah, balls! Okay, I knew it was gonna be hard, but fucking hell! 5 seconds into the battle, really? Come on!
What an attack, eh? Well, the thing about Sans is that he's different. He will remember the amount of times you die, for example. And the worst part is, if you somehow make it through his first phase of his boss fight, he will offer you to spare him. If you choose to do so, he will spare you, just like you spare Papyrus. Oh wait. Sans is a big troll and does to you what you did to everyone else and shows you no mercy. Sans, during his fight, can dodge all your attacks since he can only take one hit. The fight must be easy since Sans only has one hit point, right? Nah, it's only after you make it past both phase 1 and 2 and his final special attack that you can finally kill him after he falls asleep. Once you get past Sans and to Asgore, it's a simple one-shot kill boss and Flowey meets the same fate. Finally, you meet with the first fallen human, Kara, or is it Kara? I don't really know. We'll just go with Kara. When you kill Asgore and Flowey, they somehow in some way, Kara is reborn because if you didn't know, in the pacifist route, it is explained that Kara got sick and died. Kara will then offer you to destroy this world and move on to the next. If you choose to agree, you will see a slash of attacking and a bunch of 9s and the game crashes. If you choose not to erase the world with Kara, they will ask you, since when were you the one in control, with a creepy ass face, and then you are met with a jump scare, which I will admit on my first playthrough actually scared me. Here's the thing about doing and finishing a Genocide route though. If you complete it all the way through the game, it will never be the same. In order to first bring back the world you destroyed, you need to wait on the black screen which happens after Kara destroys the world with or without your help. If you give her your soul, she keeps her promise and brings the world back. However, if you choose to do a pacifist route post-Genocide, you will see a familiar face at the end of the pacifist route with a messed up laugh and see a horrid picture of Kara with all of Frisk's friends presumed dead. I will show you a comparison of the two cutscenes. Undertale is a really fun game that has really basic controls, and there are two ways to play this game, with keyboard or controller. I normally play this with keyboard since it's the first way I played the game. Controls for keyboard are arrow keys plus keys Z, X, C, and Shift, and Enter. The controls for Undertale with controller consist of joystick or D-pad for movement, A or X for Z to represent the key on a keyboard. Depending on what controller you're using, I'm going to say both controls. X on the keyboard is represented by B or circle, and C is represented by triangle or Y, and that's really it. It's really simple controls, honestly. When you first start out Undertale, one of the many cool features this game has is the ability to name your player character. Sometimes I name myself VMeg or Peepoo, cause why not? One cool feature that is when you start a new game in the middle of a current save is you can reset, but unless you beat the full pacifist or genocide routes, you can't change your name again, unfortunately. One particular thing about Undertale is that it will remember what you do. For example, if you kill Toriel and go back to your save and this time spare her, Flowey will call you out for it when you encounter him. I won't go too much into depth, but there is a video on the times where Undertale remembers things you do. This video is made by an Undertale YouTuber known as Merg. His video will be linked in the description down below or on the iCard right now. As most common in any RPG, battles do take place. Normally, how they function in Undertale is that you will have 4 battle options: fight, act, item, and mercy. Let's go ahead and try to go a little in depth for each of these options. Starting out with the fight option, it usually doesn't always mean killing the enemy. Hurting an enemy to a certain extent may make them not want to fight you anymore, and you'll be able to spare them. However, fighting until death will reward you with EXP, or as it's known in its acronym, execution points. If you receive enough XP, you can grow your LV, or level of violence. Both EXP and LV are acronyms. In the Judgment Hall, Sans explained this to you no matter what route you take. Our next battle option is Act. When in battle and selecting the option Act, you can do a variety of things depending on who you are in battle with. For example, fighting Papyrus and going to Act, you have the chance to flirt with him if you wish to do so. But for the Sans fight, in the Genocide route, for example, you will only be able to check, which means showing your opponent's stats. This check option will always be available no matter who you are in battle with. Using Act in certain instances and doing certain things in the Act menu may make enemies no longer want to fight with you, allowing you to spare them. For example, if you go on ahead and flirt with a Frogget and then compliment it, it will no longer want to fight you, and you can have the option of sparing it. Next up on our list is items. Items are, well, items. They are things you buy or find throughout your journey in the underground, which can restore HP depending on what item it is. That easy. Finally, the Mercy choice. Mercy has only 2 options, Flee and Spare. Flee may not always be an option to use, but I will explain it anyways. When fleeing, you are quite literally leaving the battle. You don't receive any gold or EXP, and that's about it. Sparing is a choice that can end the battle if your opponent is sparing you. Sparing enemies can allow you to receive gold, and that's about it for battles. Next up, let's talk a little bit about the overworld. In Undertale, there are 5 major areas: Ruins, Snowden, Waterfall, Hotland, and I'll just include the Monster King's castle. Each area is beautiful, and there's a variety of monsters you can meet, like Toriel in the Ruins or Sans and Papyrus in Snowden. Over time, you grow to love these friends you've made in the underground, and that's one reason the Genocide route can be so hard for some people, because people can get attached to these characters that are so lovable. Time to move on to our final section of this video, soundtrack. Although I'm not much of a guy to talk about music, there are a few games which have such a good soundtrack that I need to talk about it. Undertale is most definitely one of those games. Starting from the moment you boot up the game, you are instantly hit with amazing music. Throughout your journey in the underground, you will hear some amazing tracks which can go from the Ruins to Waterfall to the core theme. Many of the boss battles in Undertale also have amazing music, going from Ghost Fight to Spear of Justice. Even something as simple as the dog song is sure to please your ears. I can guarantee personally, this game does not disappoint when it comes to music. I can promise that your ears will thank you for playing Undertale's amazing original soundtrack. Undertale is truly a game with one of the best original soundtracks out there. At least in my opinion. Overall, after taking a deep look at what Undertale has in store for players old and new, I'd say this game holds up excellently in this year, and if I was to speak for myself, I'd say every year. Undertale is truly a game like no other, and that's why I'm able to appreciate it so much. Everything gives it a charm and makes you want to play again, whether that be the music, gameplay, or even the characters themselves. Undertale is truly one of the best RPGs out there, and I'd heavily recommend it to anyone if you haven't played it already. However, that's all I have to say on Undertale. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to hit that subscribe and like button if you enjoyed the video. If you are over 13, please feel free to join my Discord server, and if you're feeling extra generous, please go follow my Twitter at vmake17 of course. And lastly, thank you all one last time for watching, and have an amazing rest of your day.